settle in. Let me tell you about a boy and an elephant, and a night that changed everything between them. His name was Little Toomai, though nobody called him little in a cruel way, only in the way you might call a flame little before it becomes a fire. He was born into the elephant lines of India, in the time when great gray creatures moved like slow thunder through the camps of the Keda hunters. His father handled Kala Nag, Black Snake, the most magnificent elephant in all the service, and little Toomai, from the moment he could toddle, followed that elephant like a shadow follows the sun. Kala Nag was 40 years old, enormous and patient, with tusks worn smooth as river stones. He had seen things, monsoons and marches, the capture of wild herds, the deep hush of the jungle at midnight. And somehow, he had chosen to be gentle with this small, bright-eyed boy who climbed his trunk as though it were a staircase. There was a story the men told, the old hunters and the elephant handlers, told in low voices over evening fires. They said that deep in the forest, when the moon was full and the world was very still, the elephants gathered, wild ones and tame ones, both, and they danced, stamped and swayed and called out to one another in some ancient, wordless language, older than any human tongue. No man had ever seen it, or if any man had, he had not come back quite the same. Little Toomai burned to see it. He couldn't have told you why. Not in words you could write down, anyway. It lived in him the way music lives in someone before they know the name of what they're feeling. His father told him firmly, "You will never see the elephants dance until you have ridden an elephant into the Keda stockade and done a man's work. Stop your dreaming. But some longings, you see, are not the kind that listen to their elders." One night, a full moon night, when the light came down through the trees in long silver ribbons, little Toomai could not sleep. The camp was quiet. His father snored softly. The other elephants shifted and breathed in the darkness, great warm presences tethered in the shadows. And then Kala Nag moved, not restlessly, not in the way an animal moves when it is troubled or afraid, deliberately, quietly, the way a decision moves through a mind before it speaks itself aloud. Little Toomai was awake in an instant. He watched Kala Nag pull free of his picket chain, gently, as though he had always known how, and stand waiting in the moonlight. Waiting, it seemed, for the boy. What do you do when something ancient and enormous and wise looks at you with patient eyes and waits? You climb up, you hold on, you trust. Little Toomai climbed. Kala Nag turned without a sound, and together they walked into the trees, and the jungle swallowed them whole. The jungle at night is its own country. The air thickens, the shadows have weight, strange sounds drift in and out, a frog, a night bird, the creak of something unseen shifting its enormous body between the trees. Kala Nag moved through it all without hesitation, without sound, like a dark river finding its course. Little Toomai pressed himself low against the great warm neck and watched the moonlit world slide past. Branches reached down like hands. Fireflies sparked and vanished. The smell of earth and green and something older than both rose up around them. And then, other shapes in the darkness, moving parallel. Other elephants, tame and wild alike, drifting between the trees in the same direction, with the same quiet purpose. A procession without a signal, gathering without a summons anyone had spoken aloud. Little Toomai held his breath. His heart was hammering, but not with fear. It was the hammering of someone standing at a door they have been trying to find their whole life and realizing, here it is. The clearing opened like a held breath, releasing. It was vast, ringed by ancient trees, flooded with moonlight so bright it was almost loud. And the elephants, oh, there were dozens of them. Hundreds, perhaps, shoulder to shoulder, swaying. Wild ones with the forest still on their hides. Old ones with tusks like curved ivory moons. Young ones pressing close to their mother's flanks. And they began to stamp. Not all at once. Slowly at first. The way a song begins before you know it's a song. One foot, then another. Then the ground answering back. Then more. Then all of them, together. Stamping the ancient earth until it trembled. Until you could feel it in your chest. In your teeth. In the marrow of your bones. The sound was not music exactly. It was older than music. It was the earth remembering itself. It rose and rose, that drumming filling the clearing, filling the sky, filling little Toomai until he thought his skin could not contain it. He did not speak. He did not move. He only witnessed when the light began to change, that slow, gray softening before the sun commits to rising. The elephants quieted, one by one, then all at once, the way a crowd disperses after something sacred has ended. Kalanak turned, unhurried, and carried little Toomai back through the cooling forest, back through the silver-threaded dark, back to the camp where smoke was just beginning to curl from the morning fires. The men saw them come out of the trees. First his father, who went pale, then red, then pale again. His boy gone all night, and now returning on the back of the great elephant, as though stepping out of a dream. Then the other handlers. Then Peterson Sahib himself, who oversaw all the elephant work of that region and had forgotten more about elephants than most men ever learn. Little Toomai slid down from Kalanak's back. His legs were unsteady. His eyes were enormous and still full of what he had seen. He tried to explain, and the words came tumbling out. The clearing, the moonlight, the drumming, the hundreds of them dancing. There was an old man in the camp, very old, his face weathered deep as carved wood, who had hunted elephants for 60 years. He had heard the stories. He had never believed them possible to witness. He listened to little Toomai, and he was still for a long, long moment. Then he stood up, and in a voice that carried across the whole camp, across the morning mist, across the stirring elephants and the waking fires, he said, "This boy has seen what no man sees. The elephants have shown him their secret, and a boy who carries that in him will grow into the greatest elephant handler who has ever lived." He called him Toomai of the elephants, not little Toomai anymore, just Toomai of the elephants. And Kalanag, that great and patient creature, raised his trunk once and let out a long, low call that rolled through the trees like a blessing. Some children are chosen by the wild for reasons we cannot reason out. Some doors open only once, only for one person, only in the dark. Toomai had walked through his, and the world was never quite the same size again.